I ran into her best friend at the store. Funny, my wife said she's on a trip with you. She said, I haven't seen her in weeks. I smiled and asked, how about dinner tonight? All right, Reddit, buckle up because this one's a slow burn that ends exactly how you'd want it to. My wife thought she could play me like a fiddle while I funded her double life. Spoiler alert, she miscalculated. I'm Jake, 34 years old, and I work as an elevator technician here in Colorado. Been doing it for about 16 years now. Started as an apprentice right out of high school and worked my way up to running my own crew. It's one of those jobs nobody thinks about until they're stuck between floors. We install them, maintain them, fix them when they break down at 2 a.m. in some office building downtown. The pay is solid, the work is steady, and I've never had to fake enthusiasm in a meeting about quarterly synergy reports or whatever office people do. I bought my first house at 27. Nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom ranch in Aurora with a 2-car garage where I could store my tools and tinker with stuff on weekends. Paid extra every month on the mortgage because I liked watching that principal balance drop. Some guys spend their money on flashy cars or expensive hobbies. I spent mine on equity and peace of mind. Met my wife Hannah at a friend's cookout back in 2019. She was wearing this yellow sundress and had this laugh that could cut through a crowded room. Worked as an administrative assistant at some insurance company downtown. Nothing glamorous, but she seemed grounded. Seemed being the key word there. First date was at this hole-in-the-wall taco place she'd been wanting to try. We sat there for 3 hours talking about everything from childhood pets to which Fast and Furious movie was actually the best. She thought my job was interesting, asked real questions about how elevators worked and what happens when the cables snap. Spoiler, they don't. There's like 8 backup systems. She didn't check her phone once. That last part matters more than I realized at the time. Second date, I took her hiking at Red Rocks. She showed up in proper boots, not fancy sneakers, which told me she actually listened when I mentioned the terrain. We packed sandwiches and sat on a ledge watching the sun go down, while she told me about her dream of traveling Europe someday. I filed that away for later. By date 5, I knew I wanted something serious. She wasn't playing games. She returned texts within a reasonable time. She remembered details I'd mentioned weeks earlier. When her car broke down on a Tuesday night, she called me instead of her ex or some random friend with benefits. That meant something. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Nothing crazy, just dinner at her favorite Italian place and a ring I'd saved 6 months for. Her dad had given me his blessing over a game of poker at his house the week before. Told me I was the first boyfriend he actually liked, which apparently was a big deal, because Hannah's sister had married a guy who still borrowed money from his parents at 32. She cried, said yes, and we were married by the following spring. Small ceremony. Backyard reception at her parents' place. I built a wooden archway for us to stand under during the vows. Her mom still has it in her garden. Her parents loved me. My parents loved her. Everyone thought we were the couple that had it figured out. For a while we did, or at least I thought we did. The first 3 years of marriage were solid. We split bills fairly, took turns cooking dinner, and actually talked to each other like adults. I handled the mortgage and utilities. She covered groceries and her car payment. We had a joint savings account that we both contributed to every paycheck. System worked. Then sometime around year 4, things started feeling different. Not dramatically different, just off. Like when you're driving and realize your alignment's slightly pulling left. Easy to ignore at first, but eventually you notice you're always correcting. Hannah started getting protective of her phone. Not in an obvious way. More like it was always face down on the table. Always on silent. She'd take it to the bathroom with her, which she never used to do. When it buzzed during dinner, her eyes would flick to it like a reflex. Then she'd force herself to look away. I noticed. I just didn't say anything yet. Then the conversations got shorter. I'd come home after a 10-hour day of troubleshooting motor drives and replacing worn cables and elevator shafts, boots scuffed, shirt damp from working in machine rooms with no ventilation, and she'd barely look up from whatever she was scrolling through. One night in particular stands out. I walked in, dropped my keys in the bowl by the door like always, and found her on the couch with her phone pressed into a throw pillow like she was hiding it from a security camera. Her thumb was planted on the lock button, not resting, guarding. Hey, I said. She flicked her eyes at me for half a second and waved her hand like I'd interrupted something important. No smile. No, how was work? Just a dismissal. I stood there a beat, letting the silence do its thing. Something smells like nothing. We eating or am I raiding the fridge? She said, still not looking up. Check the fridge. I repeated it back to her. Check the fridge, like I was confirming a delivery order. Cool. We're roommates now. Her jaw tightened. Don't do that. Do what? Make it a thing. I took off my boots. Slow and deliberate. Walked to the kitchen, found a container of leftover lasagna with a sticky note on top. Made dinner. Not love you. Not hope you're hungry. Just instructions. I leaned against the counter and called out, "What about Saturday? We said we'd check out that open house near Parker. Remember?" She snapped back. "I'm tired. Tired of what? Me?" Her head finally turned, eyes flat. I said, "I'm tired. Can you not interrogate me the second you walk in?" Interrogate. That word landed with a little click in my head. Filed it away. I heated the lasagna anyway. Set the table like I always did. 2 plates, 2 forks, water glasses. I wasn't trying to win points. I was trying to keep our house from feeling like an airport terminal. I called her to dinner. 5 minutes, I said. She didn't move. Phone still half buried in the pillow. Thumb still on the lock button. I watched that thumb. It told me more than her mouth ever did. She finally got up like she was doing me a favor and sat down. Phone came with her. Not in her pocket, not on the counter. Right next to her plate, face down, her palm hovering over it like a protective shield. I pulled my chair back. Phone stays off the table. House rule. Her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Phone off the table. Why? Because you said so? Because we're eating together. That's supposed to mean something. She let out a short laugh. Not amused. More like a warning shot. You're not my dad. I raised an eyebrow. Good. Because if I were, you wouldn't talk to me like that. There it is, she said. Voice louder now. Control. You always do this. You can't stand not knowing everything. I didn't argue. I reached over, picked up her phone with 2 fingers like it was a dirty dish, and set it on the sideboard behind her. Not a toss, not a slam, just a move. She grabbed her fork like she was going to stab the plate. Are you serious right now? Dead serious. You're being controlling. I took a slow breath, looked at my own plate, then back at her. If you think basic respect is control, you've been living easy. Her chair scraped back. Unbelievable. I stood, lifted my plate, and took it with me toward the front door. What are you doing? She called. I opened the door, stepped onto the porch, and sat on the top step with my food. Cool night air. Quiet, honest eating. I called back, eating without a third person at the table. She walked to the doorway, arms crossed like she was about to deliver a verdict. So you're going to sulk out there like a child? I took a bite, chewed, swallowed. I'm not sulking. I'm adjusting. Adjusting to what? To the new version of this house where I don't compete with a screen for basic courtesy. Her lips pressed into a tight line. You're making this weird. No, I said. Calm as a man reading a weather report. You made it weird. I'm just naming it. She stared at me like she wanted a fight. I didn't give her one. After a second, she turned and went back inside. The door closed. Not slammed. Just closed. Like a decision being made. That night she came home late. Past 10. I heard the car, then the quiet footsteps. I didn't get up to greet her. Didn't play home monitor either. I stayed in bed, light off, listening. She slipped under the covers without a word. I waited a full minute. You okay? Silence. Hannah. A sigh. The kind people use when they want you to feel like a burden. I need time. To be alone. Please don't start. Start what? This. Questions. Talking. Just don't. I turned my head on the pillow, staring into the dark. We're married. We're not supposed to be strangers who share a mortgage. I said I need time, she repeated. Sharper now. That was the first moment I knew the line had been crossed. Not because she needed space. People get tired. People get overwhelmed. But because she wanted space with the comfort of my paycheck still running in the background. She wanted me present as a resource and absent as a person. I didn't argue. Made a mental note. Went quiet. The next morning I left early for work. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw her through the kitchen window. Phone in hand, coffee untouched. Face glowing from that screen like it was the only light she needed. At the job site, my buddy Danny caught one look at me and smirked. Danny's been in the elevator trade forever. Guy can smell trouble like a frayed cable. We'd worked together for almost 8 years at this point. He'd been through 2 divorces himself and had this sixth sense for when something was rotting in a man's home life. You've got that sleeping next to a wall face, he said, setting down a hydraulic pump assembly. I'm good, I told him. Danny snorted. That's what men say right before they stop being good. He set the unit down and wiped his hands on his jeans. Let me guess. She's on her phone all the time. Gets defensive when you ask simple questions. Looks at you like you're interrupting her real life. I didn't answer, which was answer enough. Danny nodded like a doctor confirming a diagnosis. Yeah, I've seen that movie twice. Didn't like the ending either time. I'm handling it. Yeah. He tapped his wrench against his palm. Handle with tools, not feelings. Don't get emotional, don't beg, don't bargain. Just document, prepare, and execute. Women like that. They count on you being too attached to think straight. Don't give her that advantage. That line stuck with me all day. Not because Danny was some philosopher, because he was right in the way that matters. He'd learned through pain what I was just starting to figure out through observation. That night, I tried again. One clean attempt. I cooked. Grilled chicken, rice, salad. Nothing fancy, just effort. Hannah walked in, saw the plates, and her eyes flicked to the side like she was checking for cameras. Phone went face down on the counter, hands still hovering. Dinner, I said. Sit. She hesitated. I already ate. You didn't. The fridge is full of my leftovers from yesterday. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue. Then she closed it and sat down, like she was calculating which version of herself would win. I sat across from her. Tell me what's going on. Nothing, she said. Too fast. Okay. Then tell me why nothing has you hiding your phone like it's classified. Her eyes flashed. I'm not hiding it. You buried it in a pillow last night. That's dramatic. It's accurate. She leaned back and crossed her arms. You're exhausted, and you're taking it out on me. I nodded once. Try again. Her jaw tightened. I don't owe you a play-by-play of my thoughts. I'm not asking for a play-by-play. I'm asking for basic partnership. You've been acting like I'm an inconvenience. You're making it about you. It is about me. It's my marriage, too. She picked up her phone like she couldn't stop herself. The screen lit for half a second, and she angled it away from me on instinct. Then she caught herself and locked it. Thumb on the button again. There it was. The reflex. I set my fork down. New rule. No phone at the table. And another rule. If you tell me don't start again, I'm going to start changing how this house works. Her eyes narrowed. You threatening me? I'm informing you. Threats are emotional. This is logistics. She laughed again. That same dry exhale. Oh my God. You think you're some tough guy now because you ate on the porch? I tilted my head. I think I'm a man who's done begging for normal conversation. She stood up, plate barely touched. I'm going to bed. Fine, I said. But hear me. You don't get to shut me out and still keep the benefits like nothing changed. She froze at the doorway. Benefits? Mortgage. Car. Bills. My attention. My time. Those are benefits. And they're not automatic if you're treating me like a roommate. She turned and went upstairs. That weekend, I made my first real move. Not a speech. A move. I bought 2 plane tickets to Rome. A week. Non-refundable. A reset button with an expiration date. I did it because part of me still wanted the version of us that didn't feel like a business arrangement. I came home Monday, put the printed itinerary on the kitchen counter, and waited until she walked in. Hannah glanced at it like it was a parking ticket. What's that? Rome. A week. Just us. She stared, blinking once. Rome? Yeah. You want space? Fine. Let's take it somewhere that isn't this house. No phones, no half conversations. We go. We reset. Her face didn't soften. It tightened, like I'd cornered her with kindness. I don't want to go with you, she said. Flat. I held her gaze. Say that again. She exhaled sharply. I don't want to go with you. The room felt suddenly very quiet. Then she added, like she was ordering a substitute at a sandwich shop, can I take Brooke? I didn't move for a second. Not because I was shocked, because I was measuring her. Measuring how far she'd go. Brooke? I repeated. Yeah, she said quickly. She's been wanting to travel. And honestly, I need a break. A break from what? From your husband? Her eyes rolled. From everything. From pressure. Interesting, I replied. Because when people need a break, they don't usually ask their spouse to pay for a replacement. She threw her hands up. You're twisting it. No, I said. And I reached for the papers, slid the second ticket out from the packet, and folded it once. Clean. I'm not financing a trip with a substitute. Not happening. Her face changed. It's non-refundable, Jake. Then it'll sit. Like a reminder. She scoffed. You're being petty. I'm being awake. She stepped closer. Voice sharp. So what? Now you're punishing me? I nodded toward the hallway. Guest room. Starting tonight. Her mouth opened. You can't be serious. I can, I said. And I am. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't crowd her. I just kept going. Separate accounts. I'm opening a new one tomorrow. Bills will be split. The car schedule goes on the fridge. And my work hours are changing. I'll be leaving earlier. She shook her head, disgusted. You're insane. I shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe I'm done funding a life where I'm treated like background noise. Her phone buzzed. Her eyes dropped to it instantly. I watched that reflex, then looked back at her. You can take your space, but you don't take my resources while you do it. She glared. Fine. I'll go alone. Do what you want. Just understand the new access rule. We can be polite. We're not doing married while you act single. She took the stairs 2 at a time. Door to the guest room closed hard. That night she tried the first soft play. I came home the next evening and found a mug of tea waiting on the counter. Honey, the kind she knows I like when I'm getting over a cold. She was sitting at the table, hands folded, voice gentle, like she borrowed it from someone else. Hey, can we talk? I set my lunch cooler down and looked at the tea. What's this? A peace offering. She gave me a small smile. I've been burned out, confused. I'm not trying to hurt you. I pulled out a chair and sat, but I didn't touch the mug. You're tired and confused, but you were clear enough to ask if you could take Brooke to Rome on my dime. Her cheeks flushed. That came out wrong. It came out honest. She leaned forward, eyes glossy. I don't want us to blow up over this. I nodded once. Then stop lighting matches. I'm not, she insisted. I just need room to breathe. Room? Yes. A blank check? No. She reached across the table like she wanted to touch my hand. I slid my hand back and rested it on my thigh. She blinked at that. Recalculate. So what now? Now we keep it civil. My rules stay. Guest room. Separate money. Phone stays off the table when we do talk. And after your trip, we'll have a real conversation. Her brows lifted. After my trip? Yep. You wanted space. Take it. We'll talk when you're done playing invisible. She swallowed. Jake, come on. I leaned back. Polite, not close. That's the setting you picked. Her face hardened for a second, then softened again like she was cycling through options. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, I'll respect it. That sounded nice. It also sounded rehearsed. 2 days later, she left for the airport with one suitcase and the energy of a woman walking into a role she'd practiced. No kiss, no real goodbye. Just a quick, awkward hug, like we were co-workers at a retirement party. Text me if you need anything, she said, already drifting toward the door. I nodded. Safe flight. She walked to the car and I watched her go. Without that tight feeling men get when they're afraid to lose someone. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was taking inventory. The second her taillights disappeared, I moved. Not out of rage, out of clarity. I changed the garage code, reset the Wi-Fi password, updated my email passwords and the bank login, put a sticky note on the fridge. If you need access to anything, message me. Then I sat down at the kitchen table with a legal pad and started documenting every weird charge on the credit card from the past 6 months. Every time she said she was somewhere, but the math didn't add up. Every night she came home late with an excuse that felt rehearsed. I pulled up our shared calendar and compared it against her stories. Yoga class on Tuesdays? The studio closed at 7, but she didn't get home until 9:30. Dinner with coworkers? On a Thursday? Her office had been working remote that whole week. The lies weren't sophisticated. They just relied on me not paying attention. I opened a folder on the table and started building a timeline. Ticket purchase. Her refusal. Her request to take Brooke instead. The date she left. Bank transfers that didn't match any bills we had. The weird charges I'd been ignoring because marriage means giving people the benefit of the doubt. Except trust isn't a blank check. It's a credit line. And she'd maxed hers out. I called my buddy Danny and asked if he knew a good notary who worked late. Danny didn't ask questions. He just said, yeah, handle with tools. I'll text you the address. The next 2 days I worked like a machine. Early mornings at job sites, evenings organizing paperwork. I got copies of everything. The mortgage, both car titles, our marriage certificate, bank statements going back 2 years. I wanted facts. I wanted documentation. I wanted a foundation that couldn't be argued with when the time came. On the 3rd day, I went to a discount grocery store near our place because we were out of basics and I wasn't going to starve while my wife was in finding herself mode. I was in the produce aisle comparing avocados like a normal human when I heard my name. Jake? I turned and saw Brooke. Brooke was Hannah's friend, but not the kind that played games. She was direct, athletic build, no-nonsense face, eyes that didn't dance around topics. She was holding a basket with tomatoes, bread, and coffee, like she lived in reality. Hey, I said. Neutral. I didn't expect to see you. She smiled. Then her smile faltered. Wait, aren't you supposed to be in Rome? I looked at her for a second. The store noise faded behind the question. I could ask you the same thing. Her eyebrows shot up. What? I held my basket steady. Hannah said she wanted to take you, instead of me. Brooke's face drained. She said what? She asked me if you could go instead of me. Then she went alone. Brooke stared, mouth slightly open. She told me she was doing a solo reset. She didn't say anything about tickets or you or me. I nodded once. That checks out. Brooke's grip tightened on her basket handle. No, it doesn't. That's not okay. I kept my voice low. What did she tell you exactly? Brooke looked around like she suddenly remembered we were in public. Then she stepped closer, lowered her voice. She asked me some weird questions the past few weeks. Like, if someone asked where we were, what would you say? I thought she was talking about work drama, friends gossiping. I told her to stop being dramatic. I raised an eyebrow. Did she ever mention Rome? No, Brooke said, sharper now. Jake, what is going on? I exhaled through my nose and pointed at the end cap near the tomatoes. You want to stand here and talk or keep shopping like nothing's happening? Brooke set her basket down on the floor like she decided shopping was over. Talk. I nodded. Show me your messages with her. Brooke hesitated for half a second, then pulled out her phone and started scrolling. Her face got tighter with every swipe. Oh my God. She stopped, then turned the screen toward me. Look, there it was. Hannah. If he asks, say we're at a museum, like the one with the big stairs. Brooke. Why would he ask me that? Hannah. Just in case. Don't make it weird. Another message. Hannah. If you need, I can send you a selfie to post so it looks normal. Brooke. Hannah, stop. Hannah. Please, I just need you to be cool. Brooke's voice was thin. Jake, I didn't answer most of this. I thought she was spiraling. My eyes tracked down the thread. There was a screenshot of a boarding pass. Tight crop. No passenger name. Just a flight and a date. Brooke scrolled further, jaw clenched. And this? She opened an image. Hotel confirmation. 2 names listed. Neither was Jake. Neither was Brooke. I felt my face go still. Not angry. Just final. Brooke swallowed. That's not me? No. It's not. She swiped to another photo. A shot of hotel carpet. 2 suitcases. 2 pairs of shoes. 1 pair was men's sneakers. Not mine. I don't wear sneakers. Work boots or running shoes. Those were neither. Brooke's eyes flicked up to mine. Jake. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I just nodded. Send me everything. Brooke's fingers flew. Done. And listen. This isn't. I didn't know. I believe you. But I need to understand how long she's been building this. Brooke's nostrils flared. I'm not letting her use my name like that. And I'm not watching you stand there and explain it away for her. I shifted my basket to one hand. I'm not explaining anything away. Good, Brooke said, because this is messed up. I glanced at the checkout lines and back at her. Coffee. Tomorrow morning. I want the full picture. Brooke nodded without hesitation. 9. The diner off the highway. The next morning I walked into that diner and the waitress, mid-50s, sharp eyeliner, voice like she ran the place, looked at Brooke and me and smirked. Well, she said, setting down menus, you two look like you're either fixing something or breaking up. Brooke didn't flinch. I didn't either. I answered. Both. The waitress chuckled. At least you're honest. What can I get you? Coffee? Black. Same, Brooke said. When the waitress walked away, Brooke leaned forward. Okay, here's what I know. I kept my hands folded on the table. Start from the beginning. Brooke took a breath. A month ago, she started asking these casual questions. Like, do you ever feel trapped? Or, if you needed a week away, how would you explain it so nobody panics? I thought she was being dramatic, like always. I watched her face. Brooke wasn't enjoying this. She was angry. She stopped mentioning you, Brooke continued. At first, it was little things. Jake's busy. Then it was like you didn't exist. If I asked how you were, she'd say, he's fine, and change the topic. I nodded slowly. So she was practicing a world where I didn't matter. Brooke grimaced. Yeah. I asked, did she ever say my name in a negative way? Brooke's lips pressed together. She'd say you were solid, like you were furniture, like you were dependable, and not exciting. I gave a short, humorless breath. Furniture. Nice. I'm not saying it to hurt you. I'm saying it because it matters. She talked like you were a feature of her life, not a person. I nodded. That tracks. Brooke tapped her phone against the table, frustrated. Then the alibi stuff started. She'd test me. If someone asked where I was, what would you say? I told her I'm not your spokesperson. She laughed it off, but she kept going anyway. I said, she kept going. Brooke nodded. She kept going. The waitress came back with coffee and poured like she was fueling a fire. Then she wandered off, leaving us with the smell of pancakes and uncomfortable truth. Brooke looked me straight in the eye. Jake, I'm not going to sit here and watch you justify someone who used my name like a mask. I'm not justifying. Good. Brooke paused, then said something that surprised me. How about dinner? With me. I held her gaze. Calm. You sure you're not just trying to rewrite a bad day? Brooke didn't smile. She didn't play cute. This isn't a move. It's dinner. 2 people who don't lie want to talk about the weather. Fine. I just won't sit there and pretend this is normal. I leaned back slightly, thinking. Not about romance. About reality. Thursday, I said. 1 condition. Brooke raised an eyebrow. Only 1? Phone doesn't get a seat at the table, and honesty stays in the room. I'm not doing triangles. Brooke nodded once. Firm. Deal. I left the diner and went straight into action mode. I printed the screenshots, pulled bank statements, highlighted dates, made copies of the mortgage paperwork and the car title, took my name off auto payments that weren't mine, opened a separate account, moved my direct deposit. Then I packed my important stuff, passport, work certifications, spare keys, put it all in a locked storage bin in my truck. I labeled boxes in the garage. Hannah. Kitchen. Hannah. Bath. Hannah. Closet. Not dramatic. Efficient. I sent her a message. Account separated as discussed. Car schedule on fridge. Contact me if you need access to anything. No emojis, no speeches, just terms. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. Hannah. Hey, landed. Miss you. I stared at the screen. Set the phone down. Didn't answer. When she got back, she walked in like she'd practiced being warm in the mirror. Hey, babe, she said, pulling her suitcase behind her. I brought you something. She held up a small paper bag. Some kind of souvenir. Probably bought at the airport gift shop on the way home. I stood near the kitchen doorway. Calm, ready, arms at my sides, face neutral. Kitchen, I said. Her smile faltered. What? Kitchen, I repeated. And I closed the front door after she stepped inside. Not aggressive, just final. She rolled her suitcase into the kitchen, still trying the sweet tone. Jake, come on. Can we just talk like normal people? I missed you. The trip was good, but I kept thinking about us. About how we need to reconnect. I watched her face. Studied it. The way her eyes kept darting to gauging my reaction. The way her voice had that slightly too bright quality people use when they're selling something they don't believe in. I placed a folder on the table. Thick. Neat. Organized. Color-coded tabs. Dates highlighted. Everything in chronological order. What's that? She asked. Voice tightening. Facts. Facts, she repeated slowly, scanning the folder like it might bite her. Jake, what is this? What have you been doing while I was gone? Research, I said. I opened it and slid out the printed hotel confirmation. 2 names. Neither is mine. Neither is Brooks. The other name was a guy named Kevin. I'd never heard of him, but the internet had. Found his social media in about 10 minutes. Software sales. Lived in Boulder. Posted a lot of pictures of hiking and craft coffee shops. Real adventurous type. Her face changed fast. It's not what you think. I didn't react. Just slid out the shoe photo. 2 suitcases, 2 pairs of shoes. One is a man's. Not mine. I can explain, she said quickly. I was confused. I was under pressure. Things have been so hard lately, and I just needed to feel something different. I held up a hand. Facts beat speeches. Jake, Confusion doesn't book hotels, I cut in. Pressure doesn't hide behind your friend's name. Her eyes flashed. Then she tried another angle. Softer. I was going through something. I didn't want to hurt you. I looked at her. Steady. You didn't want to lose resources. That's different. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked down at the folder like it might offer her a better script. I slid over the separation forms. Sign this. Notary at 6 tonight. Her head snapped up. 6? Today? Yes. Today. She shook her head. Panic creeping in. You're moving too fast. I leaned back. No. I'm moving on time. You've been planning. I'm responding. She reached for my hand again, like she could touch the decision out of me. Please, just give me a chance. I'll be present. I'll fix it. I'll put the phone away, I swear. Then she stood and came around the table, overly affectionate, hands on my shoulders, trying to pull me into her, like we were back in the old days. I missed you, she whispered. I want us. I want you. I stood up, gently removed her hands, stepped back. She blinked, startled. What is wrong with you? I answered. Calm. People change when the price changes. Here's the new price. We're done. Her face twisted. So that's it? You're throwing us away? I'm not throwing anything. I'm refusing to stand in a marriage where I'm treated like furniture. She tried anger. You don't even know what happened. I gestured to the folder. I know enough. She tried tears. I didn't mean to. I cut her off again. Not cruel. Just finished. You meant to keep the lifestyle while you took your freedom. You just didn't think I'd notice. She stared at me like she wanted to argue, but the folder kept talking without words. Here are the terms, I said. Guest room until you move your stuff. Bill schedule stays. Money stays separate. Communication stays clean. She swallowed hard. You can't do this. I already did. That afternoon, she tried a different tactic. Attack me on my territory. I was on a job site in Highlands Ranch, modernizing an old freight elevator in a warehouse that was being converted to loft apartments. My foreman, Mike, called my name from the pit. Jake. His eyes narrowed. You got company. I turned and saw Hannah standing there in nice clothes. Hair done, phone in hand like a weapon she didn't know how to use properly. My crew went quiet. Danny whistled softly under his breath like he was watching a storm roll in. Hannah marched up. We need to talk. Now. I looked at her, then at Mike, then back to Hannah. This is work, not for family scenes. Her voice rose. So you're just going to ignore me? I kept my tone level. If you want to communicate, email. She scoffed. Email? Are you serious? Serious, I replied. You don't get to show up here and perform. Danny leaned against a stack of rail brackets and muttered, She picked the wrong stage. Hannah shot him a glare. Stay out of it. Danny smiled. Gladly. Mike stepped forward. professional and bored. Ma'am, you can't be on site? Insurance liability? Hannah looked back at me, desperate now. Jake, please. I didn't soften. Not in public. Not on my job. Not here. Not like this. Her eyes went hard. You're humiliating me. I raised an eyebrow. No, you're doing that all by yourself. She stood there another second, realized nobody was coming to rescue her narrative, walked back to her car. Danny watched her leave and nodded once. Tools, not feelings. Exactly, I replied. The notary appointment happened that evening. No courtroom. No theatrics. A small office. Fluorescent lights. Quiet signatures. Hannah tried to stall. Tried to negotiate with eye contact. Tried to squeeze my hand under the table. I didn't play. After that, I moved. Not moved out like a dramatic exit. I moved like a man who doesn't sleep next to a problem anymore. I took a rental place 30 minutes away for a start, then lined up something more permanent. Left a key on the counter at the old house with a note. Pickup window for your things is Saturday 10 to 12. Garage access only. Saturday morning, she showed up with her sister in a rented van. I didn't invite the sister in. I didn't need a mediator. I needed a schedule. At 11:58, Hannah was still in the garage, dragging boxes like she wanted me to come out and beg. I stood inside the doorway. 2 minutes. She glared. You're timing me? Yes, because you like gray areas. I don't. At 12 o'clock, I pressed the garage door button. It started rolling down. Her eyes widened. Jake. Seriously? Window closed. The door finished shutting. Clean. Quiet. Final. That Thursday, I met Brooke for dinner. Not as an escape. As proof that respect still existed in the world. We sat at a small table in a simple place. No fancy lighting, no performance. Brooke set her phone face down and pushed it away without me asking. Thank you, I said. Brooke smirked. It's not hard to act like a grown-up. We talked about work, about the way Denver traffic makes people lose their minds, about how her job had been chaos lately, normal stuff, real stuff. Halfway through, she looked at me and said, You okay? I nodded. I'm clear. That's different, she said. It is, I agreed. A week later, Hannah tried one last move. She found out where Brooke lived, probably through mutual friends, and showed up there thinking she could regain control by confronting the new variable. Brooke told me the story after. Calm, but firm. She knocked like she owned the door, Brooke said. I opened it a crack. What did she say? I asked. Brooke mimicked Hannah's tone, perfectly sweet with teeth. She said, We need to talk about Jake, like she was scheduling maintenance. And you? I asked. Brooke's eyes sharpened. I said email him. Hannah tried to push. Brooke didn't move. She said, You think you won? And you said? Brooke shrugged. I said, This isn't a contest, it's a boundary. Then I closed the door. When Hannah finally cornered me after that, outside a grocery store parking lot of all places, because she loved public places when she needed an audience, she came in hot. So that's it, she snapped. You're really doing this. You're just replacing me. I looked at her, steady, hands in my jacket pockets, voice quiet enough that she had to listen. I'm not replacing anything. I'm removing what doesn't work. Her eyes narrowed. You're acting like you're perfect. I almost laughed but didn't. I'm not perfect. I'm just not available for disrespect anymore. She swallowed, then tried to soften one last time. Jake, we had a life. I nodded. We had a setup. Her face twisted. You're so cold? No, I'm stable. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You're really going to throw away years? I met her eyes and gave her the last line she earned. I don't build where the foundation's being damaged on purpose. She stared at me like she wanted to argue, but there was nowhere to go. The story she'd written needed me to play the clueless husband. I wasn't in it anymore. I got in my truck and drove away. 4 months later, the divorce was finalized. Colorado requires a 91-day waiting period, and Hannah tried to drag it out even longer, with requests for mediation and reconciliation periods. The judge wasn't interested. Neither was I. We sat in that courtroom for maybe 20 minutes. She cried. I didn't. Signed the papers and walked out into the parking lot like a man leaving a job he should have quit years ago. She got half the equity in the house. I got the truck, my tools, and the retirement account I'd been building since I was 22. She wanted the furniture. I let her have it. Easier to start fresh anyway. The house sold in 9 days. Cash buyer who wanted to flip it. I walked through one last time before closing to make sure I hadn't left anything behind. Found a phone charger behind the nightstand. Hers. I left it on the counter and locked the door behind me. I moved to Lakewood, rented a 2-bedroom apartment with a garage bay included. Set up my workbench the first weekend. Bought new furniture that I picked out myself. Nobody else's taste to consider. Took a position with a company that specialized in high-rise elevator installations across the Front Range. Better pay. Better hours. Boss named Carl, who'd been in the trade for 30 years and didn't believe in micromanagement. First day, he shook my hand and said, "Do your job, don't cause drama, and we'll get along fine." That was the whole speech. Hannah's situation fell apart pretty quick after the divorce. Kevin from Boulder dumped her about 2 months in. Apparently, spontaneous gets old when rent's due, and your girlfriend just lost half her household income. She moved back in with her parents for a while. Her dad texted me about it, said he was sorry, said she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. I told him I appreciated him reaching out, but there was nothing left to discuss. She tried contacting me 3 more times after that. First was an email, long and rambling, talking about personal growth and second chances. Deleted it without responding. Second was a voicemail on my birthday, crying, apologizing. Said she finally understood what she'd thrown away. I listened to it once, then blocked the number. Third time she showed up at my apartment complex, sat in her car in the parking lot for an hour before security asked her to leave. Brooke saw the whole thing from the window. That's actually how I found out Brooke had been staying over more often than not by then. We'd been taking things slow, but somewhere along the way her toothbrush ended up in my bathroom, and her coffee mug ended up in my cabinet, and it just felt right. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.